Welcome to part 3 of the 15 Minutes to Quilt Challenge compilation of 2023. You don't have to watch these 3 videos in any order because there was a different project in every single day of the 31 days. But I will put a link in the description box and at the end of the video for the other 2 videos. Do you have a big quilting project coming up? How are you doing on your New Year's resolutions? In this video, I thought I'd just come and keep you company while you're working on those projects. Last year, I hosted a 15 Minutes to Quilt challenge. We had so much fun doing the challenge. And so what I thought I would do is to get you geared up and get you started. I gathered up all of the videos that I made in December last year, where I showed you a different project every single day, where I worked on each of my projects for 15 minutes that day. I am gathering all of them up into 3 videos because there's 33 videos. There's an introductory video at the beginning. There's a 31 videos for one for each day. And then there was a award ceremony at the end. And what I'm going to do in this series of videos is to gather them up into 3 different videos so that you can watch them from start to finish without having to go look for each of them separately and worrying out which ones you've already seen and which ones you've missed. I decided to make them 3 videos instead of just 1 because I do want you to get some sleep and get some rest. With these 3 videos will give you plenty of time to make progress on your own quilting projects. I have to admit that I also have a selfish reason for showing these to you again, in that I need your feedback. I'd like your feedback on how to make this year's quilt challenge even better than last year's. I have some ideas of my own, but I'd like to gather yours. Are there any particular projects that you want to make sure show up again this year? Are there any that you feel are not necessary to be seen again? Either way is fine. I'm really excited to host the challenge again this year, and I'd love to get your feedback on how to make the 2024 15 Minutes to Quilt challenge even better than last year's challenge. I hope you enjoy sewing along with me in this compilation, and hope that you'll join me in December for the 15 Minutes to Quilt Challenge 2024. Hello, welcome to Quilt in Color. For my 15 Minutes to Quilt today, I'm going to show you my Jazzy Blues blocks. I'm going to open the box for you so you can see the blocks. There's some triangles, whole bunches of triangles. There's some hourglass blocks. There's flying geese. There's 4-patch blocks. There's square and the square blocks. And there's half square triangles. So there's all sorts of different kinds of blocks in these beautiful blue fabric. This is a traditional pattern and it has an optical illusions effect, and I wanted to make sure that I made the points match each other properly. So there's 2 things that the Jazzy Blues quilt needs. One of them is to trim more of the blocks, but the other thing that I need to do on this quilt is to think of a layout. And I thought that we could do that together since we haven't done that before yet on this 15 Minutes to Quilt challenge. The pattern itself has a layout in it, and I could easily just follow it and make the quilt the way it was designed to be. But one day I got this bright idea that, hey, there's all these different blocks and I've never had this many different blocks together in the same combination before. And what if I just play with the blocks and see what kinds of things I can come up with? It's just a fun project for me to do while I was waiting for the next month's worth of blocks to come out. And also a fun thing for me to do while I waited for myself to trim the rest of the blocks. It's a procrastination, I know. So what I did was I laid out the block, I got on a chair, I took a picture, I got back down off the chair, changed the block a little bit, got back on the chair, took another picture, laid it out a different way, just turning the blocks a little bit at a time. It kind of looks like a kaleidoscope effect if you look at it all one at a time. It was getting overwhelming for me to make this decision about how to put these blocks together. But then I got another bright idea, which was, what if we don't make all the blocks the same? What if we make alternating blocks, for example? And so the next day I did the same thing, up and down the chair, trying different layouts, and that just made the process even more overwhelming to me. So today you get to watch me think. Don't worry, it's not going to be me staring at the camera the whole time. I have some pictures I can show you. Together we can come up with a good layout for this quilt. So let's go over to the computer and we'll look over some pictures. I normally have all of my photographs by date order, so I have a folder for each month of the year, and I put all the pictures together so that I can keep track of what other events had happened during the month. That kind of helps me put the quilts in context with my time, and I put all of them from all of those different folders and put them all together, so it makes it a lot easier for me to compare everything. And here is a whole big set of pictures. These are 92 pictures total. So what I'm going to do is I created this no folder where I'm just going to move things to the no folder as we decide not to use them. So these set of pictures here are just the pictures of the blocks, and we're definitely not going to use the settings that are here, so I'm going to move them out of the way. All of these pictures we're going to move out of the way. These are drawings that I made before I started working on the blocks based on different colorways, just to see how the colors make a difference on what the quilt looks like, and it definitely makes a big difference. But now that I have chosen the colors and I've already started working on the blocks, I think these pictures make it more confusing to me and not less confusing. So I'm going to move those out of the way. And these are the different individual blocks that were made, that could be made with these pictures. These are the different blocks that can be made with those components that we have. And as you can see, there's a lot of different ways that the blocks can be laid out. And these are the pictures that I took by climbing up on the chair and coming back down again. And after I took the pictures, what I did was I put them on I use paint actually to show the picture in a 9 block setting and a 9 patch setting to see what the actual quilt would look like. So we don't really need the block pictures because we have the setting pictures here. So I'm going to move these block pictures out of the way like this. It doesn't use all of the designs. It doesn't use all of the components. That one didn't. Okay, so we can move all of these, and this one, and this one, and this one. That's nice. There's only 22 pictures to look through now. It still makes it difficult for me to choose, but there's 22. At least is a lot better than 91. I think this one and this one are very similar to each other, so I'm going to take that one out. And all of these 3 look similar, so I think I should these 5 look similar actually, with the star in the center. So I'm just going to pick one of these. I'm going to take these out, move them out of the way. That makes it a little bit easier to compare them. So you can see some of the blocks have the star in the center of all of them. This one has that 4-point star. This one has a 8-point star. This one has like a wheel thing. This one alternates the blocks, this block and this block. This one looks similar to that one. Let me see. Yeah, that one's too similar to this one for me to... There is a difference in them. It's not exactly the same. There was a change in everything, but maybe it's one of the secondary blocks. Maybe I changed the way something else looked, like I don't see what the difference is here. And I could spend the time trying to figure out what the difference was, but it's not worth it to me now. So these four all have the star in this here. And I'm trying to look at the differences between them to see if there's any substantial difference. And whatever changes I made in these 4 blocks, I don't see a big difference. This one has a lighter colors here in this blocks, and this one looks like it's darker. Okay, because this one has the flying geese, and this one has the triangle. So these two are very similar to each other. I don't think they're worth the effort trying to figure out what the difference is between them. And these two are similar in that they both have the same secondary pattern and the same primary pattern. I don't think it matters. You can see there's a difference here, but with the way the flying geese are laid out, or the hourglass block is laid out, this one has this diamonds, and this one you can see the flying geese, or you can see the hourglass more. This one makes it diamonds, and this one you can see the flying geese. They look like bow ties. I think I like the diamonds better than the bow ties, so we'll take that one out. Between this one and this one are very similar. I'm going to take this one out. I think this one's interesting, but I don't think it makes a big difference. It's taking away some of the secondary patterns. It maybe looks too busy. Take that one out. Okay, there's 2 stars here. We make a decision between this one and this one. Let's look at them in a bigger way. There we go. This one or this one. That one or this one. It's like an eyeglass test, huh? Is this one better or is that one better? I like this design. It's unique, but it doesn't have that circular pattern that I liked on that one. This one, I guess you can kind of see the circular pattern if you squint. Okay. This one, to me, it looks more like lines here. I'm going to say no to both of them, actually. Okay. This one makes it look like lines this way. This one kind of feels more circular to me. This is the one I think that had the most circular one. Even though this one and this one had this, no, I don't know. This one and this one had different blocks in the center, but they have a similar effect to me. And my initial inclination was to say keep this one and not that one, because this is just a more unique block. But it also makes it more liney and not circular. I don't really see. I'm going to reject both of them, actually. Okay. Now, what are we going to do with the rest of these? This one, I think I'm going to go ahead and reject this one also. And it may just be the way the block is put together in the photograph because of it looks a little messy here, but I don't, because of the way the pictures are put together, it's kind of hard to see. But these two rows, I don't really think I'm gonna like them next to each other like that. These two have the same block. The difference is that here we've got the flying geese, and here we've got the triangles. Flying geese, triangles. So here I guess there would be the 4 diamonds and then the triangles. It doesn't show very well. It'd be nicer to be able to see a better picture of this. How the 4 diamonds look next to each other. Well, they look like this. Okay, so flying geese or triangles. These lighter colors, they seem kind of getting, I guess it'd be over here, so they wouldn't necessarily get lost. But they seem to be more in part of the star of this diamond shape. And here you can see them brighter. And this turns out to be green and this blue. I like the different colors that this forms. If I can keep all the green here in these blocks and then the blues over here, I think this one kind of did the same thing, but this doesn't look. Yeah, the different lighting conditions just makes it so hard to compare these two blocks, these two pictures. But this one has a lot of circles. I think the other one did too, though. Yeah. Just keep looking at the rest. See if I can find any others I can reject. I think I can reject that one. Can't really see circles over here much. At least not with this picture. So 9049 is a reject. Yeah. Okay. This one you can really see the circles. You can see the circles in here. I think the color makes it more obvious. You see circles. This one looks like chains. Okay, so all of these pictures are eligible contenders. This one and this one has the same block design. Oh, we were deciding that was the one we kept looking at earlier with the secondary block. This one or this one? I guess you could see the secondary here, the star or the diamond or the triangle. So I want this secondary or this secondary. So even though it's hard to see here, you can see it in here and here. So this one, and this one has the same secondary block. And I could still choose the layout so that I can get the secondary block I want and the primary block that I want with any of these initial block patterns, whether I want the star or this windmill shape or this kind of star shape or this diamond shape. Okay, it's been more than 15 minutes and I still haven't decided on a particular picture, but at least I got down from 91 to 6 or to 5. Let me know in the comments what your favorite one is. I think what I'm going to do is just sleep on it and think about it some more. This has been something that I've been grappling with for a while, and so I'll just continue to trim some more blocks. And eventually I'll have to pick one of these designs. And as you can see, I don't think that I can go wrong with any of them. It's just that I had to pick one in order to be able to move forward with the quilt. This video is one of a series of videos where I work on each of the quilts that I have in process and see how much work I can get done in 15 minutes. I hope that you sewed along with me, and if you did, just let me know what you worked on and how much you got done in your 15 minutes, and I'll give you an entry in the drawing. I'll choose a winner on January 1, so we're getting really close to that drawing date. I'm really excited about all of the work that's continuing to be made throughout the month. I'm really happy with how much it's helped you in getting your quilting done and in other parts of your life also. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all of your support, and we'll see you again tomorrow. There won't be any prizes in this series of videos in the 2023 15 Minutes to Quilt Challenge, but there definitely will be prizes in the 2024 15 Minutes to Quilt Challenge, and I do hope that you'll join me in December for that challenge. Be sure that you subscribe so you don't miss it. Hello, welcome to Quilt in Color. Today, for day 23 of the 15 Minutes to Quilt Challenge, I'm going to be working on a stack and whack quilt. The stack and whack is the name of a process where you stack similar fabrics next to each other. They're stacked up exactly because they're exactly the same. And then you cut them, and then you can manipulate these to make beautiful kaleidoscope looking quilts. And so today I'm excited to show you what that quilt looks like. I hope you sew along with me today. Let's get started. Okay, so as I told you earlier, the stack and whack block is made by just putting fabrics right on top of each other. They have to be exactly the same, so you want to make sure that each of these pieces line up exactly on top of each other so that you get exactly duplicate blocks. This is the hardest part about making this quilt. And then basically once you have lined them up exactly on top of each other, you can just cut for this quilt 4 at a time, but if you're making a block with triangles, you may need to make 6 or 8. And then the repeat of the fabric is what makes the kaleidoscope effect. So let me show you this mirror. This is a mirror that will show you, you can look at the fabric here. You can see that what this block is going to look like. If you make a 45-degree angle here, you can see what this block will look like, but if you arrange it just slightly differently, it looks different. And then again, just little turns, just a slight turn is going to change the way your block looks, just like a kaleidoscope. And this leads to, as you can see, very elegant patterns as you go from one way to another. So let me show you what the blocks look like. Let's start at the beginning and I'll show you what's in the box. So we have some unfinished blocks over here. Put these aside for today. There's some scraps of the fabric that I was using. There's some black fabric. There's some pink fabric. More scraps. There's some orange fabric and some blue fabric. And then also there are some finished blocks in here. So let's look at the finished blocks just so we can admire them one at a time. This one is a tiny block. I think this is just from leftovers, and I decided to just go ahead and make it because it's not the same size as the other ones are. So this one I think is just a bonus block that I can use for one of my little small quilts. Here's another bonus block for my small quilt. This is another bonus block for the small quilt. And this is the actual size of the blocks that I'm going to be using. And you can see that, you can see these going around, and just the way that the blocks are arranged, it just makes a big difference. Let's go ahead and do the rest of these pretty quickly because there's a big stack. There's this one. this one. These are not pressed, but the rest of these do look like they have been pressed. So this one. You can see how different each of the parts of the fabric look depending on how the block is arranged. And I think it makes a very elegant quilt. Even though the name Stack and Whack makes it sound like it would not give you a good result. And the thing about this 4-patch posy, this pattern is called 4-patch posy. And one thing that I really like about the 4-patch posy is that once you stack all of the fabric together, you can just cut the squares for this 4-patch without paying attention to what it's going to look like, and it's going to come up with a great design. It really is a low waste project. There's very little waste in this, because every design that I came up with made it look really pretty. Because as you can see, no matter how I arranged the blocks, they came up with some intriguing, beautiful design. The fabric that you choose for this block does not have to be pretty. Anything that is big and has a big motif works really well for this. So as you can see, I have some blocks that have partially been sewn together, and I just need to sew them to each other. And I need to make sure that I sew the correct parts to each other, like this, so that the symmetry shows in all of this. Let me show you a stack of blocks here. You can see all 4 of these squares are exactly the same. And the beauty of this 4-patch quilt is that you have lots of choices about how to arrange these blocks. So if I arranged all of these circles together like this is what the block would look like. But if I choose to rotate them all, you get a completely different look for the block. And then I rotate it again. There's another completely different look. And then last, I get back to the small circle in here, and this is the look that it gives me. And as you can see, all of these designs are beautiful, and you can just choose which design you like based on whatever you like. What I did was I compared them to other blocks that I had made, and just to make sure that there was a good variety. So if, for example, I have something like this, I already have something similar to this, so I can choose, even though it's different, it's not exactly the same, but it's close enough that I can maybe choose the other pattern. Which one did go this way? Something like this. So as you can see, no matter what I do, I won't go wrong. And what I also have here in this stack, I have some pieces that just need to be sewn together into, they've already been sewn into 2 patches, and they just need to be sewn together in 4 patches. And there's a bunch that have been pinned together that need to be sewn together in the whole block. can get these done first so that they can be finished. And then these we can decide on what layout we like best. Most of these, the 4 patches, are still kept together with the thread, so it'll be easy to sew them together. Okay, so we'll go to the sewing machine and we'll start sewing. big circle. That. Of course, the pressure of the beeper makes it harder. Nesting seams. Okay. So 3 completed blocks from start to finish. This video is one of a series of videos where I'm showing you each of the works that I have in process. I'm just bringing them out one at a time to show you how much work I can get done in 15 minutes. I hope that you did so along with me today, and if you did, just leave a comment to let me know what you worked on and how much you got done today in your 15 minutes, and I'll give you an entry in the drawing. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all of your support, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Make sure you leave a comment to let me know whether you want to see this project again this year. Hello, welcome to Quilt in Color. Today on day 24 of the 15 Minutes to Quilt Challenge, I'm going to be working on my Circle 365 quilt. The Circle 365 concept is very simple. You just take a square and you put a circle on it every day. And so you'll have 365 squares at the end of the year that you can put together in a quilt. And at the end of the year, you'll have a quilt. Unfortunately for me, my definition of daily doesn't quite work the same way, and my quilt is more than a year old. Let me show you some of the circles that I have here. So I decided that I was not going to use exact circles and that I was going to do different things with my circles. So here you can see there's a circle here, and this one has a circle on the outside and also a circle on the inside. Let me show you some more of these, because you can see here that all my squares are not all the same size. I have some bigger ones here. Let me show you another one. This is what the rest of the quilt looks like. Most of the circles are already been put into the quilt top. There's a large variety you can see. And there's a whole bunch of different rows. So let's make some more blocks for the Circle 365 quilt so we can make some more progress on it. In order to make progress on this quilt, I need to introduce you to my trash can. It doesn't have a name, it's just a trash can. But what I like about this is that it has a lid so that it keeps some dog hair and my hair, dust out of it. Also reminds me not to put banana peels in there. And then on the inside of it, this one comes out. I can put this inner trash can on the table without worrying about the table getting dirty. And then I can raise the trash can to my heart's desire. So there's some scraps that we made last time when I was trimming some fabric for the Dots and Dashes quilt. So let's see what kind of circles we can make out of this. Before I start, I just wanted to show you the Curious Cat is finished. You can see that I used a snake binding that I also used in the Portraits quilt. Okay, so this quilt is also made with the scraps from the trash can. In case you wanted to see that idea, there's a video on that one called Scrappy Cats. I've gone ahead and prepared some background squares so we can get straight to choosing the design. And you can see here on the ones I've already finished that mostly I just do raw edge applique and everything is cut pretty free form. So let's see what we have in the trash. We'll just put some on the table here so we can get a good variety. And then we'll choose. One of the things I like to do is to use the fabric the way it is. This one's already starting out as a circle, so I could either keep it as a circle or I could make it more circular if I wanted to. Kind of like this one, kind of looks like a mountain on this. Maybe we can keep it this way. And because this is circular, this already fits my definition of circle. But maybe we can add something else to this just to make it have a little bit more energy. I like the orange. And there really is no right or wrong in this decision-making process. Sometimes I just choose something really quick and easy, and other times I spend more time thinking through the design. This one I think looks good to me. I can just go ahead and cut this. And this one's ready to go. And then for the next one, I'll do this one next. Kind of thinking about a circle that's made with rectangles. So maybe we can take, this is selvages, but that's fine. We can take some strips. Again, I'm using them the way they are. And I can choose to trim off these or leave them there, whatever works best for me. And here you can see it looks pretty circular. I wonder if I want a different color in the middle. No, not that one. It goes with blue and orange, I think. Maybe this blue. Yeah, this will make it festive. That's not long enough. Because this is a 4-inch block and with the seam allowance, it needs to be, the strips need to be pretty small. So okay, I like that. It looks circular enough. I could even make it more circular if I wanted. There we go. If the quilt place wants to complain about this one, there's circles in this fabric design, so either way it'll work. Okay, so this one's already ready to sew. Start with this one. Let's go ahead and go with the pink one. How can we do circular with this? Go ahead and just use these the way they are because we have them. If I only have two, maybe I make another one. Okay. I like this one. Okay, so we need a circle of some kind. All of these pieces. I want green. I'm tired of green now. This one's too small. Can make a circle here. And fold it up in force and cut a circle. Cut a quarter circle, and that should wind up being a circle at the end. The color is not very obvious though. Not that it has to be. Maybe I can put some red in here for contrast. Because these scraps are cut with are pretty rectangular. I'm feeling more rectangular today than normal. But I think this will still be fine. Maybe this up a little bit more. Okay. This one still needs a circle. Let me see if there's another fabric. Big bold blue. And I can either make a circle out of it or just use the circles that are in the fabric as the circle. Make this one longer. It's a little bit too big. Okay, I think that works. Sure you can see all of these the way they are now. And I'm going to take the whole cutting mat over to the sewing machine. I still have black thread in the sewing machine and the 1/4 inch foot, but I'm fine with that. I use whatever thread in whatever setup the machine already has instead of trying to get these little projects in, instead of being particular with this particular project, because the more rules there are, the harder it is to make the quilt. So I just grabbed the first one. This is the one with just a circle in the fabric. And you can see I didn't glue these down. I didn't do anything special with them. And then I can just decide how it is that I'm going to quilt them down. I can outline things, or I can just make a scribble on top of it, whatever I'm in the mood for, whatever happens in the machine. It's just all intuitive. And it's fine if the fabric shifts while I'm doing this, because it's all freeform design anyway. And this one's finished. know I'm continuing past by 15 minutes because one thing I've learned about these blocks is that if you don't secure the applique right away, then you end up having a bunch of scraps all around and it just makes a big mess. And there's the last one. We've got 4 Circle 365 blocks done. This video is one of a series of videos where I show you all of the projects that I've been working on and show you how much work can get done in 15 minutes at a time. I hope that you sewed along with me so I can give you an entry in the drawing. Just let me know in the comments below what you worked on today and how much you got done, and I'll give you an entry in the drawing. Thank you for watching, thank you for your support, and I'll see you tomorrow. How's your progress on your quilting project? Hello, welcome to Quilt in Color. Merry Christmas to you. Today is day 25 of the 15 Minutes to Quilt Challenge. You didn't think I was going to take the day off, did you? Well, I am. This is pre-recorded. But today I'm going to be working on the 1857 quilt. Even though I don't have a Christmas quilt exactly in the works, I do have this quilt which uses reds and greens and yellows primarily, so it pretty much looks like a Christmas quilt. It can be used as one. This is a reproduction of a quilt that was made in 1857, which looked like it was a quilt that was made from blocks made by a bunch of different people that were put together because the styles are different for each other. So today we're going to cut some fabric and just fuse it onto the background, and basically the way I put them together is I'll use a buttonhole stitch on my machine to secure the applique. But what I like to do is that when I'm working on appliquing the green, I'll just do a bunch of different blocks with the green thread so I don't have to keep switching back and forth for each block. I hope you have time to sew along with me today, but if you don't worry about it. You can make up the time if you want to, or if you don't, that's fine too. You can just call it a free day. Okay, let's get started the way we always do, is by looking over the box and seeing what's in here. First thing we have here is some patterns that are printed out, and we have some fusible to help us with that. Put these aside. There's some scrap fabrics. I want to work on these today. So we've got some red and green and yellow. I'll work on these today. And then there's some finished blocks in here. Well, they're not finished, but they're fused. So look at those more carefully. And these, I think, are finished patterns that I've already made. And then there's some background fabric that we can use that have already been cut. And then there's some more scraps of fabric in here. Let's first admire the blocks that we have already fused down. Since they're shattered, I'll show them to you one at a time. You can see some of them are a lot more elaborate than others. I chose the white background instead of a cream background just to add a more modern touch. You can see on this block the red has already been sewn down with the buttonhole stitch by machine, and the green has not been done yet. You can see that. On this one, the yellow has been secured at the top. On this one, the yellow has also been secured. Decided to make this pattern because it's got three colors that we can use. Let's work on the green petals first. Just need a small one for that. So basically, I'm just going to make one template, and it's really easy to see from the pattern. If you can't see it, then it helps. You can always get a light box. And instead of making this many times, since I already have fusible here and I already have green scraps, I'm just going to cut this shape out of this fabric. And I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Got some children's scissors. And find a place where I can get this to fit. And I can use a pin to make this work. I'm going to go ahead and go beyond this tip because this is going to be covered up with the circle anyway, and it'll make it nice to not have a raw edge on the inside. Just moving the pin out of my way. There we go, there's one done. I'm being careful just to make sure that I'm always getting the part that is fused. It helps to use a smaller pin if you have one. And it's okay if it's not exactly the way, if it's not exactly perfect. Because it is just applique, and nobody else knows what the pattern's supposed to look like. The blocks in this quilt look like they're made from different people, so I don't worry too much if it doesn't look exactly right, because It could just be somebody who's less experienced who's making this particular block if I make a mistake. For these shapes that look like they could go either way, then I don't really pay that much attention to whether it's the right side or the wrong side, because they look pretty similar enough. And if they do look a little bit different, that's a nice variety in the block. Don't think that I saw any more fused fabric. There was no fused red or yellow, so I'll go ahead and press some. A small square of this fabric, so because I need a very small amount. And likewise with this one, I'm not going to need a very large square of this. Okay, so I cut a very small amount of this, and I'm going to go ahead and just peel back a little section. To press this on top to the back of this fabric. A fusing sheet is nice to use so that there's not a lot of fusible that gets onto the iron. On this one, I'm going to go ahead and draw the shape so that I can attach it to the red right away. You know, it looks like I can go ahead and cut one piece rather than lots of individual pieces. My original plan was to make little pieces. Nope, I need a bigger red if I do that. Not worried about the fabric because I can always use the other red, that piece that I just cut, for another part of the quilt. Find my scissors. I'm gonna use a part that's bigger than what I need because I know that I can always use this for other parts of the pattern. Okay. To save the fusible, I do try to be as close to the edge as I can when I'm starting. Peel back this side. What happened to my children's scissors? I'm peeling off the side that does not have fusible here, or the pattern. I should press it onto the fabric here. Again, close to the edge is good. And my timer is up. I'm just going to go ahead and cut and lay this out because there's not very much time left. It shouldn't take very much time. Then it's just a matter of finding the center. Pressing this on top. If I wanted to save fabric, I could just, if I wanted to save more of the fusible and the fabric, I could cut a shape out of part of the shape in here. I'm going to do that. have to do that. And I peel off the paper, leave the fusible on the fabric, center as much as I can on this. It's all sticky. I can put the pattern underneath it so I can see where it should go. Makes it a little bit easier to place. If you can't see, you can always peek underneath. Okay, I'm rushing too much here. I'm going to go ahead and place this better afterwards. And it'll just be a matter of putting the applique here. And then the circle on the top. If it doesn't work right for you, you can always reposition it until you press it. You can pick it up and put it back down as many times as you need. This video is one of a series of videos that I'm presenting every day this month to show you the works that I have in process and how much I'm getting done in 15 minutes at a time. I hope that you got a chance to sew with me today, and if you did, just let me know in the comments what you worked on and how much you got done today, and I'll give you an entry in the drawing. And today, because it's Christmas, I'll give you 2 entries in the drawing. How about that? That's my gift to you. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all of your support. Happy holidays to you, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Don't forget to give me feedback in the comment box to let me know whether you want to see this project in this year. Hello, welcome to Quilt in Color. For day 26 of the 15 Minutes to Quilt Challenge, we're going to be working on the Amalfi Coast quilt. This quilt is a simple courthouse steps quilt that's made with all sorts of beautiful fabrics that make me think about waters on the Italy coastline And so I'm calling it the Amalfi Coast quilt. As you can see, this quilt is almost finished. It just needs an inner border and an outer border. I hope you get a chance to sew with me today. Let's get started. Let me show you here. So here's the quilt top. And what I did was I went to the center of the blocks here. This is the center this way on this quilt. And so what I did was I took the sashing strip, measured it across the center to make sure it was exactly the same size. It's a little bit difficult for you to show this to you in this camera. I had to put the quilt on the floor to be able to measure it exactly right. I made 2 inner binding strips, one for each side of the quilt. So one of them is for the top and one of them is for the bottom. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to find the middle of this strip. So here we have the middle of this strip, and I'm going to pin it to the middle of the top of this quilt. And I know the middle of this one is in this middle block because there's 5 blocks here. So I know the middle of this block is the middle of my strip, and it's because it's fussy cut, it's really easy to see where the middle is here. It's right here. So I'm going to pin right sides together right here, the middles of both the blocks, of both the pieces. So the middle of the inner border goes to the middle of the quilt top. And then I do the same with the end, right sides together. Here. And I'm going to do the same on the other side of this. Making sure this is a nice angle. I'm going to make sure it's square, completely square. Okay, now I'm going to compare the top. I'm going to just stretch these out a little bit to make sure that they're straight. And then find the middle of this, both of these, and pin there. This border fabric, must not have trimmed it straight on the grain because it is a little bit stretchy, but I think it's fine. It's going to be fine. And then I'm going to do the same to the other side, is to find the middle, make sure I stretch them to make sure that everything is, I'm not stretching them, I guess. What I'm doing is I'm pulling them to see if they are straight, which they should be since they're the same size, and then finding the middle approximate and just pinning there. And then I can do the same for the next quarter. So since I have this pin and this pin, I'll try to put a pin in the middle here. So this way, if there is any stretching while I'm sewing, I'll still have good marks to make sure that I'm only working on one section at a time. You can see, even though it looks a little bit loose, when I pull it, it looks fine. Actually, I'm going to just make sure that I have the middle. There we go. It's a little bit easier now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do this here. Usually I don't add, usually that's enough pins for me. But because my fabric is a little bit stretchy, I want to make sure that I have as much security as I can in this. And while I'm here, I'll go ahead and do the other side so I can just sew them both. Make sure when you're doing this, you are getting the other side and not getting you're still doing the same part of the quilt. So this is the bottom of the quilt or the top of the quilt, and the other one is the other way. So you're not accidentally doing the side, because for this quilt, it's a 5x4 layout, so the sizes will be completely different. You don't want to accidentally put the wrong size, and that'll warp your quilt completely. Although usually you can tell when there's a mistake, especially when there's a big difference. Okay, so again, there's 5 blocks here. So this is the center right here. And since I fussy cut this, I know that this is the exact center. I'm going to pin them right sides together in the center. Oops, stuck my pin. And then I pin the ends. And I can pin this center if I wanted to, but I'm just going to go ahead and do the ends. This would also be something good to do while you're on the floor measuring the quilt, to go ahead and pin the borders. That way the quilt is flat on the floor when you're doing this. But it's at the end of the challenge and my floors are not clean right now, so I'm not going to show them to you. And my camera equipment is not set up for different rooms in the house. Camera angle's a little bit awkward because I want to show you close-ups, but then that means that you can't see the distance view. So for this sashing, I decided that since I was adding strips into my quilt, like here you can see that I added a different color here just for fun in here, that I wanted to add some extra fun pieces into the border as well. And that's why the border fabric doesn't all look the same. Here's the block that has a different parts. Okay, so now I have both of these pinned down, so I'm just going to go ahead and sew them. Okay, now I'm just going to sew the inner border to the quilt top. It's important to keep the quilt top on the table to avoid drag. And even though generally in quilting you don't need to backstitch or do anything to fix the seams, but for the border I like to add some extra security and go ahead and fix it. And I have this fixed feature on my machine that stitches over a couple times to secure the thread. It would also be a good time to cut off these extra threads, but because I want to finish this in 15 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and just leave them here and cut them afterwards. I just pull out the pins before the needle gets to it to make sure that I don't break the sewing machine needle. And I don't mess up the timing or any problems with the machine. And this is a quick and easy long seam, so as long as you make sure that both the sides are lining up correctly, you can sew pretty quickly. But it's always good to stop now and then for quality inspection. And as always, just work on one small area at a time. And for this one, since there are seams on the back, you'll want to make sure you check to make sure the seams are going in the right direction. Sometimes, usually I pin those seam allowances in the right direction so that I remember to keep track of them. I'll do the other side. Again, make sure you keep it on the table. Usually when you have a big quilt like this, the ends are far enough apart that you can go ahead and just turn the quilt around, otherwise you'll have to start and stop. You do want to make sure that you're not pulling anything when you're sewing this down. Okay, so the next step, I'm going to press the little binding strip away from the quilt top, and that way I'll know the exact size to put the other binding strip for this side. I'll lay it back down on the floor after I press it, and then I'll measure the binding strip, measure 2 binding strips through the middle of this part of the quilt, and then that way it'll be both of these will be the same exact size. When you have 2 of the exact same size binding strip border strips, these are inner borders. When you had 2 of the same size inner border strips and even the outer border strips, that makes sure that the quilt will be as square as you can get it to be. Otherwise, you have wavy edges. This video is one of a series of videos that I'm doing where I bring out each of the projects that I have in process, and I just see how much work I can get done 15 minutes at a time. I hope that you had a chance to sew along with me today, and if you did, just let me know in the comments what you worked on and how much you got done today, and I'll give you an entry in the drawing. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all of your support, and we'll see you again tomorrow. What project are you working on while you're watching this video? Let me know. Hello, welcome back to Quilt in Color. For day 27 of the 15 Minutes to Quilt Challenge, I'm going to be working on the unconventional and unexpected quilt, which is the name of the book that the quilt came from. It's a fun improv quilt. I wasn't very creative when it came to naming the quilt, but that name backfired on me after I made this quilt top. It doesn't look as unconventional and unexpected as I would like, so today we're going to see what we can do to fix that. I hope you get a chance to sew with me. Let's get started. Okay, so before we get started, let's just examine the quilt and find out what the problem with the quilt is, and to come up with a game plan for how to fix it. Let's just talk about the block itself first. The block has a center square, it has the 4 hourglass units, and it has the improv pieced sashing. All of these sections are improv pieced, and then they're regularly pieced together as a whole. And when I was putting these little blocks together, the one thing that I had a hard time with is balancing out the colors and the fabrics on these squares. And so I wound up making them into rows. I know it's kind of hard to see in this, but you can see there's one. And then here there's two stars, and then there's 3 dots here. And you won't be able to see the long rows, but there's blue, just goes down in a row. And then the red stars go here, and then this red is in the bottom. And I think that, to me, that is part of what's making this quilt not so unconventional and unexpected. I wanted it to look a little bit more unique. I think this causes the problem. But before I start ripping things out and rearranging the blocks, I know that I already had problems with the arrangement. So what I'm going to do is to make some more blocks and see if I can just make a bigger quilt and see if that fixes the problem. I'll just lay it out to see if that fixes the problem. And if it doesn't, then I can start ripping out some of these seams and rearranging them to make it more of an unconventional look. So one way I'm going to fix this problem is by just adding more blocks and put them in a way that interrupts this layout. So if I put, say, a red, for example, here, and maybe a different blue here, it'll just throw off the setting, and maybe it'll make it fix itself, depending on how many extra blocks that I add. But if it doesn't, I can always rip out some seams and rearrange these blocks. The other thing that I think, the other mistake I made, is that I didn't use these fabrics in the sashing strips. The book itself, when you look at the quilt, it's hard to see the squares. And I think the reason this quilt is easier to see the squares is because they have unique fabrics. So if I put, for example, if I put other stars in the sashing, then the squares would be more hidden into the quilt. So let's go through the box and see what extra fabric we have in there. This is one thing that I always do, is I make sure that I keep the extra scrap fabric in the box until the quilt is completely finished, because you never know when you might need it. I know that I was running low on some of the fabrics, and so I did add a couple extras, and there's always more that you can add, as we can always just add more as we go along. So let's just see what little pieces we have. We have an hourglass unit here. We have another hourglass unit here. There's some fabric for the squares, but maybe, as we talked about before, we could use these for sashing, and that'll make it a little bit blendy. It'll help blend things more. Thought I had more units that I could use. Here's another unit, hourglass unit. There's something, I'm not sure what that's about. There's just some extra fabric. Okay, I don't see a lot of pretty sewn things. Maybe these are squares that are the right size. Okay. I don't think I want to use that one, that's just extra. I'm not sure how many extra blocks that I want to make, but I know that I want to make at least 4 so I can put it on this side of the quilt. But eventually I feel like I'm going to go all the way around and make a whole bunch more. So I'm not worried about making too many blocks for this quilt. So it looks like we have fabric for 2 extra blocks for the square. So I could add some more of this. I need to cut some more squares for this quilt. And to make it uncommon, I want to choose other fabrics that are not these. So this one, yep, this one looks like it's big enough to be able to use. And maybe we can use some of this. This one is in the sashing block, so it'll be nice to add that. And maybe some of this, just to add some variety. And this has already been used, and these have already been used. Okay, so I'm going to cut some more of these for now. I'm just going to follow this fold line since it's already here. Actually, I'm just going to try to fix the grain, even though for this quilt the grain line's not that important. And also for this quilt, the sashing strips are not going to be cut with the ruler, but I am going to cut these squares with the ruler. Wait, is that right? I think I need... Yep, that's the wrong size. I can use this for the sashing strip, no problem. I need to take the seam allowance into consideration. Okay. Do I want to go ahead and cut the rest? Yes, I do. Okay, I'm going to cut this one also. And these will work well for the sashing. Okay, so I have 4 of those. And I have a red one and a blue one. 6. I'm going to go ahead and cut some of this. I think it'll add a lot of energy to the quilt. I don't think I want more than 4. I think that'll be too much. Because this is an improv quilt, I'm not really that worried about perfect cutting. Because fixing the problem is actually part of the charm of the improv quilt, is to make mistakes and then figure out unique and creative ways to fix them. Do you notice I'm using a different ruler now? This one has the numbers labeled both directions, so it makes it a lot easier to know what you're cutting. And also, because this is an improv quilt, I'm not worried about making sure that the squares, that the grain is proper. So it's fine with me if these lines don't line up exactly right on the quilt. In fact, I think it's better when it doesn't. Okay, so now we have the center squares done. And we have just a few, only 2 triangle pieces. So maybe we need to figure out, plan some more of the hourglass units. And so for the hourglass units, I just cut big squares, make them into half square triangles, and then I turn them, and then turn the half square triangles into quarter square triangles to make an hourglass unit like this. So the trick to this, especially when you're working with improv, is to make sure that you have big enough squares so that when you trim them down, they will fit into your quilt. Like this. So these are going to be cut very much smaller to make them fit. Okay, so now we're going to make, these to me are not big enough, so these will be good for the sashing. And to make the fabric for the sashing, I went either direction. So sometimes I went this direction and sometimes I went this direction. Let me find the quilt here and I'll show you. Alright, so I'm just going to cut some strips here to make them work for the sashing. And we just need them to be this long, which is perfect for this. So I'm just going to cut these into strips, and I'm not going to use a ruler. Okay, so we just had time to make a plan today, and we had time to cut some squares, but I think I'm well on my way to making this quilt better, and I'll just continue on with the sashing in the hourglass units to make this quilt. This quilt is from the book Unconventional and Unexpected by Roderick Kirchhoff. I made this quilt as a sew-along with Sujata Shah. She had a sew-along on her blog. This video is part of a series where I make each of the quilts that I have in process to see how much work I can get done in 15 minutes. I hope that you did get a chance to sew along with me, and if you did, please leave a note in the comments to let me know what you worked on and how much you got done in your 15 minutes to quilt, and I'll give you an entry in the drawing. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all of your support, and we'll see you again tomorrow. What projects are you working on while you're watching this video? Hello, welcome to Quilt in Color. My name is Shalina. For day 28 of the 15 Minutes to Quilt Challenge, I'm going to be working on my Courthouse Steps quilt. These improv blocks are made from scraps of fabric from my other quilts. They are a lot of fun to make and are a great scrap buster. I just separated lights and darks. I sewed them together in an improv setting and trimmed them to size. These are 8-inch blocks. Let's see how many I can stitch together in 15 minutes. I hope you get a chance to sew along with me. Let's get started. There's a lot of these blocks, so we'll just go over them really quickly. bring the darks together to each other. And then I'll put the lights together when I add the rows to each other, when I add the columns to each other. This video is one of a series where I make each of my works in progress quilts. I just see how much work I can get done in 15 minutes. I hope you had a chance to sew along with me, and if you did, just let me know in the comments what you worked on today and how much you got done in your 15 minutes, and I'll give you an entry in the drawing. Since we're nearing the end of our series, let me know in the comments what you'd like to see in future videos. Would you like to see me make more progress on these quilts you've already seen? And if so, would you be okay with me working on the same steps, or would you like to wait until the next step, until I'm working on the next step of the quilt? Thank you for watching. I appreciate all of your support, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Hello, welcome to Quilt in Color. My name is Shalina. For today's 15 minutes to quilt, I'm going to be sewing equilateral triangles together. I'm working on an old pattern called 1000 Pyramids. It just uses 60-degree triangles. And in this video, because I'm just starting, I will give you a step-by-step tutorial on how to cut the triangles and how to sew them together. I'm calling my quilt Pyramids of Paradise because of the beautiful colors that I'm using with the aqua and the turquoise and the lime green with hints of purple. Okay, so let's just take a look at what we have here in our box. It's overflowing, as you can see. It's a pretty box, but it's overflowing. So in here we have a whole bunch of triangles in lime green, some of these have been sewn to each other. And basically I'm just sewing these in a random fashion and letting serendipity take its course. So you can see that it's just going to be rows of, so it's just going to be a row of triangles. These are the way so you can see this better. And then the next row will be on top. It'll just be row after row of triangles. Like this. I think it goes like this. And hopefully there'll be some kind of kaleidoscope effect that's created by this. Alternating the lights and the darks will help make that more of a kaleidoscope effect. Okay, so we have all sorts of different colors. We've got blues, turquoise, we've got lime greens, some darker blues. And then we also have in here more fabric. I'll just show you a quick glimpse of these. They haven't been cut up yet. There's lights and darks in here. Maybe I should cut some more lights, like this light purple. And then there's just more batiks and smaller amounts of fabric in here. Yeah, there's not very many lights in here, so maybe I'll cut one of these, and then that way we'll have some more lights in here in our set. Okay, so there's a lot of different kinds of rulers you can use to cut this. You can use the 60-degree angle on your ruler and cut it that way. Or you can use a triangle ruler like this one. Or this one makes hexagons, and it also makes the 60-degree triangle over here. So anything that you use will work fine as long as you make sure you maintain that 60 degrees. So the first thing I'm going to do is to cut the size of this. I think this is 5.5 inches here for me. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that. I'm first just going to straighten out the edge. Okay, and then go to 5.5. 2, 3, 4, which is I think exactly the size of this ruler. Nope. Always compare to the original to make sure we're going the right size. This way here. Yes. So this is 5.5 inches, and the tip is cut off here because of the ruler. Okay, now I'm going to cut off the selvage. And then from here, it's just a simple matter of making sure that all the ends are inside the fabric area and just cutting on both sides. And after that, you can just turn this template over and over again to get the rest of the pieces. This will be a fun fabric for the circle quilt. Turn this off a little bit, so I'll fix that. Check this one since that one was off. That's fine. And see if there's room for one more in here. Nope. Okay, so this one's excess and that one's excess. Okay, now we can go ahead and get to sewing. Okay, so I sewed some of these triangles together, but the camera didn't record them, which is just as well because they are not the same size. Not all of these are not the same size. These will work fine for a border, but they will not work well in a quilt where the triangles are stacked on top of each other to form a nice pyramid shape. And so what I'm going to do now is go ahead and find the triangles that are the same size and then I'll sew them together so that I can make progress on this quilt. this quilting day was a little bit disappointing to me because, first of all, I couldn't find the template that I used to cut the triangles in the box. It's probably in one of the other projects that I'm working on that has the triangles. But as you can see here, this template doesn't quite fit what I'm working on here. And I don't think that I would have used like a middle of a line. See, this is too big to go on this 5.5 inch line, and it's too small for the 5-inch line. So it just doesn't match up right. And I know for sure that I didn't use the hex and more ruler. But it also doesn't quite fit any of the sections here. And I would think that I would have tried to line it up on one of the lines. I know that when I first started, I was using the regular ruler. I was using my long ruler for the beginning, but then eventually I did switch out to a triangle ruler, and I don't have it with me in the box. And then the other problem that I'm having is that the sizes of these are not the same. You can see that this is not the same, and I was basing this on another triangle that I had. I know I just cut this one today, but it just doesn't quite work out on any of these. And this is what I think this is the right size, but even this one, you can see that they're not exactly the same either. There's a little sliver here that's off. So I was able to sew some of them together, and I think it's going to look good when it's finished correctly. But the sizes are wrong, so that's the first thing I'm going to have to do. I put a little note in the box to remind myself that there's a problem with the sizes of the triangles, and hopefully the next time I get to this project, I will make sure all the sizes are the same. I will have found my other ruler, and I'll be able to go forward in a better way. This video is one of a series where I make each of my works in progress quilts. I just see how much work I can get done in 15 minutes. I hope you had a chance to sew along with me, and if you did, just let me know in the comments what you worked on today and how much you got done in your 15 minutes, and I'll give you an entry in the drawing. Since we're nearing the end of our series, let me know in the comments what you'd like to see in future videos. Would you like to see me make more progress on these quilts you've already seen? And if so, would you be okay with me working on the same steps, or would you like to wait until I'm working on the next step of the quilt? Thank you for watching. I appreciate all of your support, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Hello, my name is Shalina. Welcome to Quilt in Color. Today I'm going to be working on my Dear Jane quilt. I'm going to see how much progress I can make in 15 minutes. Okay, so as we usually do, the first thing we do is we look in the box and see what we have. And here we have the book, Dear Jane, by Brenda Papadakis. And the way this book is designed is that there's a picture of the block and then a little draft of the pattern so that you can make your own. There's no directions on actually how to make it. What there are some letters that Brenda wrote to Jane, who was a person who made this quilt during Civil War times. Let me find, here it is, okay, in 1868. And she counted the number of pieces, 5,602, by Jane Stickle. So today I've decided that I want to work on this. So this one I'm going to work on, and I figured out a way to make this one without paper piecing it. So this is the one I'm going to be working on, is a bread basket. Let me show you the picture of the actual block a little bit closer. This is E7 bread basket. Okay. See what else is in the box. There's blocks that have already been finished, and then there's some fabric that I can use to make more blocks. Okay, and let's see. Let's look at all of these. Okay, so here's the fabric. I'm thinking I'm going to need a small print so things don't get lost inside because all the pieces are pretty small. So I guess this one maybe has got the smallest print. Maybe this one will be the one I use. And now let's look at the blocks. These are not in any order. I do have the name of the block, the number of the block, so that I'll have it so I'll know which one it is. So I can find it quicker, I guess, in the scheme of things if I'm looking for it. One thing that I did not notice from the book, from the original picture, one thing I did not notice when I was looking at this originally, when I started on this quilt, is the fact that there's a trip around the world setting with the colors. So there's a green, there's the yellows, and then the reds go this way. And I did not notice that when I started, so my quilt does not do that. It's possible, you can see it with the pinks mostly. So one thing that I might do is do the trip around the world setting, but just move the blocks into a different direction. Or the other choice is to put them in randomly. And I guess I'll just decide that when I get to it. But it's going to be probably a while before I get to that decision. Okay, so here's one block. I'll just go ahead and go through these. Some of these are not the same size because I can add sashing to make them the size that it needs to be. And some of them are neater than others are, and I did think about redoing this block, or at least the applique on this block, but I decided to wait until the end to see how much it annoys me. Chances are it's not going to annoy me very much, considering the number of blocks. People are not going to look that carefully at each particular block. There's this one that just needs to be trimmed. It helps to just make them big and then trim them down. I use fall fabrics in my quilt. I was not trying to make a reproduction of the quilt, except for the blocks. You'll recognize this one from the album quilt, where I was trying to miter the corners. No mitered corners in this quilt. At least not on that block. Okay, next stack. I need to trim the triangles off of this one. Some of these blocks were really fun to make, and it felt like I could just keep making more and more of them to make a whole quilt out of them instead of just one block for this quilt. And some of them made me think, oh, what if I do this extra thing to riff on this block? So I think if you just had this one book, either this one book or any other sampler block quilt, chances are you could just use that one book for the rest of your life and still have enough ideas for your whole life. But it's more fun to have more choices. Okay, those are all the blocks. The first thing that I do when I'm working on this quilt, I look up my spreadsheet to see what blocks have already been made. So you can see here that the last time that I made a block was in 2011. It's been a minute since I worked on it. And then I can just go down this list to see which blocks I haven't made, and then I can choose which one I want to do. And today I've chosen E7 from my book. So I'm looking at E7 and I have not made this block yet. So I'm going to start that today. The second thing that I do when I'm working on this quilt is pull up this website, thatquilt.blogspot.com. This quilter has given us directions on how she made the blocks on this quilt. And so I go to this website, and here the block tutorials that tells you where the work is. So you can just pull up E7 here, which is the block I want to work on. And you can see that this block is made completely differently from what I was thinking. So when I was looking at the original block, I was thinking that I would work from the center out and make a square and a square block. And then I would add flying geese with extra fabric and then just cut them bigger that way. And then like little snowball blocks in the corners. And so I'd work my way out from the inside. But the way this quilt is made, it looks like it's made with 4 snowball blocks like this. And I had not really thought of it that way. So I'm glad that I came to this website so I could look at it this way. And because I'm looking at it this way, I think that I should be able to do this without paper piecing, because I can easily just make a snowball block and then add sashing in between to finish it off. Okay, so now I'm more confident about this quilt and I can go ahead and start working on it. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing you want to do is to measure the block so that you know how big to cut the pieces. I recommend when you're working through a book like this that you would start with the easiest blocks and work your way up. This quilt is not for beginners. Not sure if it's even up to my skill level, and I'm definitely not an expert. I really like the idea of making 4 similar blocks instead of the original way I was thinking about it, by making the center and all these other blocks. So hopefully this will work well for me. The only difference is that my way would have had a certain, like a similar square in the center instead of having pieces now that I will have, although I could applicate it like they did in the blog. So what I'm doing is I'm just measuring right now. So this quilt square starts here. So it looks like it's 1 3/4 is where the size of the block, 1 3/4 inches. So I would add 1/2 inch for the seam allowance. Adding the seam allowance will put me at 2 1/4. And actually I don't need that much because of the sashing that's going to be added. So I think 2 1/4 will be plenty for me to work on for this quilt. So the square I'm going to cut at 2 1/4 colored fabric. And then the triangle that's going to be used for the cornerstones for my snowball block is what, 3/8 of an inch. I think I could just go ahead and cut a whole inch and then just have extra at the end. So I'll just cut a 1 inch square. I know I definitely don't need a whole inch. but I can just make it improv. So I need 4 of the dark ones and 4 for each of the blocks for the muslin. Okay, so let's get this started. This is a quilt shop fabric. Move the book out of the way. Straighten out the edge. I need 4 pieces, but it'll be fine. I need 2 1/4. 1, 2 1/4, so it'll be right here. One, 2 1/4. Yep. Okay. A lot of layers on this 5/4. I didn't unfold it. Okay. Cut out the selvage here. Two. I'm just going to cut, I'm going to save this for scrap and cut the unfolded part since I didn't press the fabric first. And that way I don't have folds in the fabric to deal with. Okay, so now I have 4 pieces of fabric that I can use to work on. And I need 1-inch squares for the corners. And this is the muslin that I used originally, and I'm going to continue using it until I'm finished. And maybe this is another reason why I was kind of hesitant to keep going on this quilt, because the muslin is not as good a quality as it could be. And I did buy some more muslin, but like a higher quality one, but I'm going to go ahead and make this quilt this way. Okay, so I need, I think I decided 1-inch squares. And I cut another one just for the sashing. Okay. these up so I can cut them 4 at a time. Start on this side and clear up the edge. Turn them around gently. One, two, three, four. Okay, perfect. Now I need to sew triangle snowballs in each of the corners. So what I'm going to do is to just sew diagonally from corner to corner this way, and then I can just turn these in this direction. And compare that to the size of the fabric here. I'm comparing it to the block here, and you can see that it's going to be a little bit big, but it'll be really close. Because this is about 1/4 of an inch, so I think it'll work out just fine. Okay, my timer is up. I'm going to go ahead and finish piecing these other triangles. In my 15 minutes to quilt today, I was able to put the cornerstones on all 4 of the blocks that we're looking at. It's actually more progress than I thought I would make, although some of them do need some extra work to make them straighter. Normally I would mark these lines. Blocks this small take a lot of work and patience because any small mistake that you make on this will be amplified. When the blocks are this small, you have to worry about how much room the thread takes up. So each little tiny fraction of an inch, even 1/16 of an inch, makes a big difference on this block, on most of the blocks in this quilt. This video is one of a series where I work on each of my works in progress. I just see how much work I can get done 15 minutes at a time. I hope that you got a chance to sew along with me. If you did, just let me know in the comments what you worked on and how much you got done in your 15 minutes, and I'll give you an entry in the drawing. I'm going to post the winners in a video on January 1st. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all of your support, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Hello, welcome to Quilt in Color. Today is day 31 of the 15 Minutes to Quilt Challenge. The last day. Today I'm going to be working on my Elephant Parade quilt. The Elephant Parade quilt was a quilt that was presented by Sew Fresh Quilts on her blog. I have all the blocks done for this quilt, so it's a matter of sashing them, putting them together into a quilt. I hope you sew along with me. Let's see how much work I can get done on this in 15 minutes. Okay, so let's take a look at the blocks. This quilt was started as a sew along with Lorna McMahon of Sew Fresh Quilts. She had a beautiful quilt pattern that's all pieced, but you still get a beautiful design out of this that you do not have to applique. Although I did add an applique eye to this one. This one has elephants. I pressed this one for the introductory video, but I don't have very much time today, so I didn't press the rest of them yet. But let me show you the rest of the blocks. So there's a gray one. There's 2 gray ones. And besides the adult elephants, there are also baby elephants. Another lighter gray one, adult ones. And then I got the bright idea that I could add other things to the quilt besides what was in the pattern. And so then I started adding other ones. These are not in order of when I made them, but I have here couple people to join the parade, because all parades need some kind of music, right? And then we have somebody here to just wave to everybody, because you have to have somebody waving. Then you have a twirler dancing around with the music, because it's a good music. And then we have more baby elephants, and then I also have other animals that I added. So here's a zebra to go with the other elephants. Oops. All of my additional animals and people are made improv style to go with the very easy to piece pattern that Lorna had. This is one of Lorna's designs. This is one of Lorna's designs as well. This one's mine. This one's mine. This one's mine. This one's Lorna's. This one's Lorna's. This one's Lorna's. This one's mine. And this one is mine. So I've already gone ahead and chosen a layout. That was a hard part about making this quilt, is just choosing a layout. So we can just go ahead and follow this layout that I had. Continue on just making the sashing today. So one thing that I had thought about, normally when you make a sashing, is that you take the size of the block, add the sashing that attaches the rows together, and then add a sashing at the top to separate the rows from each other. But the idea that I had, sometimes bright ideas sometimes cause more problems than they help, is that instead of adding the sashing last, for some blocks at least, I could go ahead and make the block the size that it would be with the sashing, so that sometimes some of the animals would be, some of the part of the animal would be inside the sashing. So instead of making the block the right size and then adding sashing, I could make the block the size it would be with the sashing. If that makes any sense at all. And then add the strips that join them together after that. And you can see here, these are made like that, the way that the traditional way, where you would make the animals, each of the blocks the same way and then add the sashing. There's already a little sashing strip to make this block the right size to match the adult elephant, but now it's going to get another sashing strip to add to make it, to separate the row from each other. And if I would have just gone ahead and added the extra 1.5 inches here, then I wouldn't need to add 2 sashings. I could have just done it with 1. And so for the animals that I'm making here, I went ahead and made the block big enough that I wouldn't need to add yet another sashing strip. So now I've already chosen the layout for this quilt. So what I want to do is to just make a row. I don't think I'll have time to make more than 1 row, and just figure out how much sashing to add to the pieces so that they will all fit in 1 row. Okay, since we've been looking at this block, we can go ahead and make the row for this block. I'm not going to take the time to lay out this quilt again. The layout that I chose was fine, and so we'll just go ahead and continue on with that one. There's really no wrong way, I think, to arrange these animals. So this is the row that I have here. There's 2 elephants next to each other. There's this animal, I think it's a cougar, I can't remember for sure. And then there's a bird. And then there's the bigger elephant. They're all facing to the right. And I think this one will be a pretty good one to show you, because it shows you how to make the blocks, put the blocks together both ways. So there's already 1 sashing here. So for this one, it'll just be an easy matter of attaching these 2 sashings to each other and then adding a sashing at the top to make it the right height. For this one, this is probably already the right height. I might have to trim it down a little bit to make it fit. There'll be a sashing strip here to separate these 2 animals from each other. And then for this one, these 2 will be the same as the other for the baby elephants, is that there'll be a sashing strip between these 2, and then there'll be a sashing at the top for the row. So I think that should be pretty easy to do. I don't know how long the row has to be, so I did kind of want to leave the sashing variable so that I could use a sashing bigger or smaller, make the animals farther or closer to each other so that they would fit. But I think if I use this one as a template, I should be okay with, once I make this row, I'll know exactly the size that I want all the rest of the rows to be. So let's just start with the baby elephant, since they've already been started. It's just a matter of sewing these two down. I need to trim this one because it's not straight. The elephant's trunk is going to be trimmed off a little bit, but I think it'll be fine. I didn't sew this one correctly, but I'm not worried about it. If I had done it correctly, the trunk would have lined up better. Okay. And then I have a sashing strip. Okay, so the elephant is now cut to size. I just need to sew these two together to each other. And then once I have that done, I can measure the sashing strip to see what size it should be, and then sew them together. That'll make sure that the blocks stay even and level. The sashing will provide a stabilization to the animals. Okay, for the other two animals here, I can do the same thing. I need a sashing strip. I can just use this one to join the two animals together. This one looks like it could use a little trimming, so I'll trim that one also. Oops. Okay. Nope, they're not the same size. This one I made a little bit bigger than it needed to be. So I'm going to make these the same size. This is, that's weird, 16 1/4. So I'm fine with just cutting this one at 16 1/4. It's not 16 1/4. This ruler is a left-handed ruler. So now these are both the same size. Yep. And then I'll just cut a sashing strip at that same size. And I can just put this between these two. Okay. And then this one, maybe the sashing is going to have to be bigger than the 1 inch. So this, I think this block has already been straightened out here. Yeah, this is straight. I thought this part was also straight. I think it is. It would be. Okay. This part is definitely not straight. Let's make this one first. So this one, I kind of like this height to make enough space for between the tail and the rows of animals above it. So since this is straight, I can just cut this to even this out. And then the final row, the final cut will be here to straighten this last bit out. And since this one is more than the size we're anticipating for the other animals, the sashing strip that goes on top of them is going to have to be bigger to accommodate for this extra space. Or the other option is to take the tail and just move it higher up on into the other row, so that if I keep the animals far enough apart from each other, it could just be tucked under. Like if I had an animal here, it could just be on top of the elephant. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and sew these other pieces together since we already have them planned, and then we can decide what to do about the cougar after that. When we could also worry about that when I put the rows together. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the sewing machine and sew these pieces together. Back, so you can see that the sashing has been sewn to the little baby elephants, and the sashing has been sewn between the adult elephant, and the bird. Oh, there's my timer, which is just as well. I forgot to take this upstairs to press it, so it looks even more wrinkled in comparison to the others now. But my plan right now is to just make the sashing the same size to make the elephants to make these two animals blocks the same size as the same length as this one. So I'll just add a sashing about this size to make all of them line up properly. This video is one of a series where I worked on each of my works in progress to see how much work I could get done on them. 15 minutes. Every day I just worked on each of my quilts, so you got a chance to see what kind of quilts I make and how much work I can get done in 15 minutes. If you missed any of the videos, be sure to follow the links either on this page or on my homepage so that you can make sure you caught all of them. I hope you had a chance to sew along with me today, and if you did, just leave a comment and let me know what you worked on today and how much you got done in your 15 minutes, and I'll give you an entry in the drawing. I'm going to draw 2 winners tomorrow morning, so be sure to catch tomorrow's video so you can see if you won. Thank you for all of your support throughout this challenge. It really helped encourage me to make more progress on all of my old quilts. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all of your support, and we'll see you tomorrow for the drawing. Hello, welcome to Quilt in Color. The way the challenge worked is every day I presented a video to you where I picked up one of my old projects, showed you how much work I could get done in my 15 minutes, and I challenged you to quilt along with me and let me know in the comments how much you got done in your 15 minutes, and I would give you an entry in the drawing. I also gave an extra entry for people who either told me or somehow let me know that they had watched my video. And today I have tabulated the results and I'm going to announce the winners. First of all, I'm going to show you the thumbnails of each of my videos so you can see what my videos were, so that in case you missed them, you can make sure you catch them in the playlist that's going to be linked in the end of the video and also in the description box. Thank you to everyone who sent me a picture. Maybe at some point we'll have to come up with a community group, maybe on Facebook or Discord or something, so that we can share pictures with each other and we can all see them at the same time. So now on to the drawing. Let's announce the winners. So the first winner is Rose Swalls. Rose has participated almost every day in this challenge. Congratulations, Rose. You have won a $25 gift certificate to a place of your choice. Just let me know in an email what your choice is and I'll send it to you. The second winner is Boo Manchu. Congratulations to you. Just send me an email to let me know where you would like the gift certificate from and I will send it to you. My email address is in the description box below. Congratulations to both of you, and everybody actually is a winner for all of the work that you've done on your projects. Again, if you missed any of the videos that I have for you, I'll see you in the next video. There won't be any prizes in this series of videos in the 2023 15 Minutes to Quilt Challenge. But there definitely will be prizes in the 2024 15 Minutes to Quilt Challenge, and I do hope that you'll join me in December for that challenge. Be sure that you subscribe so you don't miss it. I've provided a link here and in the description box to the other two videos for this compilation of the 15 Minutes to Stitch 2023. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all of your support, and I'll see you in the next video.